US President Donald Trump wants India to be in the G7 countries. He has also invited Mr Narendra Modi, the Prime Minister of India, to join the G7 summit. Originally, the G7 was formed in 1975-76, comprised US, Canada, UK, France, Germany, Japan, and Italy. As these countries are not growing faster as before, so Donald Trump wants to extend the G7 into G10 or G11. India, Russia, South Korea, Australia are the countries which will be in the G10 or G11. Indian Prime Minister Mr Narendra Modi has accepted an invitation from the US President Donald Trump to attend the next group of 7 of the G7 summit, India's foreign minister's official said on Wednesday. Trump wants the fastest economy, the biggest military, super friends, technologically advanced countries. So it's like an expansion of the United Nations Security Council. But however, there is a catch in this movement, as China is emerging as the biggest rival for the US, particularly after the economic recession in 2020. India is one of the biggest, largest military power, the economy, and the Asian rival for the China. So including India in the G10 or the G11 will give the US an upper hand against China. Already South Korea and Australia are America's super friends. Now adding Russia into the G11 will make US and Russia less rival. India has a tough relationship with China. As the US trade spread rises with China, it made India and China's relationship more tougher. India and China are in a standoff in the Chinese border. The relationship has become still more complex. In this situation, India and the US has become natural allies, which is the world's largest democracy and the oldest democracy. This might be the time to counter China with the US for India. In a statement, the Foreign Minister of the United States said, "In this context, Mr. Trump extended an invitation to Prime Minister Modi of India to attend the next G7 summit to be held in the USA." Also, Indian officials has confirmed that Modi had accepted the invitation and would attend the summit. On Sunday, Trump said he was postponing until September the G7 summit that had been scheduled for the late June 2020, as Trump calls the current G7 countries as an outdated group of countries. During the call between Trump and Modi, Trump recalls his visit to India with the Prime Minister Modi in February 2020. As the relationships are getting deeper, India and US getting stronger against China. So what do you think of India and US getting closer to counter China and making one of the world's biggest G7 to G10 or G11 summits, which gathers the world's strongest military power, economic power, and super friends?
The BRICS summit in South Africa later this month is likely to see a reviving up of India's rivalry with China for the influence in resource-rich Africa. Both Prime Minister Narendra Modi of India and the Chinese leader Xi Jinping will visit East Africa ahead of the event. The government is yet to announce this, but officials say that Prime Minister Modi of India is going to visit Rwanda and the neighbor Uganda on his way to South Africa for the BRICS summit from July 25th. While Uganda has seen visits by Indian PMs, this is a first stop Rwanda. Modi will land in Rwanda, capital Kigali, a day or two after the presidency. This will also be the first time that a Chinese president will visit Rwanda. A top source said that Modi's visit to Rwanda and Uganda was a sign that Africa remained the focus of India's outreach to the developing world, and had nothing to do with any cutthroat competition with China, as often reported in the media. It's also significant that both Rwanda and Uganda or member of the Commonwealth where India is an important player, said some officials. Adding to that the outreach enhances India's South-South leadership credential even as it engages with the bigger powers. Modi will hold talks with President Paul Kagame in Rwanda and President Yoweri Museveni in Uganda. Several agreements are expected to be signed with both countries. It is significant that both leaders have chosen to visit Rwanda, where China has emerged as an important partner in the reconstruction work. China's annual trade volume with Africa and its FDI in the continent are more than double that of India. However, India in the past has had an edge over China in the East Africa, mainly because of its cultural and historical links with the region. The geographical proximity has also meant that countries in the east along the Indian Ocean coast account for more than half of India's exports to Africa. Both India and China are aware of the strategic significance of East Africa as an emerging market. India, though, is wary of the inflow of easy Chinese loans in the region, which has embraced the Beijing's Belt and Road Initiative. In Uganda, the Reuters reported that recently China alone had loaned it nearly $3 billion and was in talks for $2.3 billion more as a part of the BRI. The China operates a naval base in Djibouti on the Horn of Africa, reflecting its growing clout in the region. Its uninhabited smaller alarms the sales to the countries in Africa has made it an attractive partner for both the countries. So what do you think of Prime Minister Narendra Modi of India and the President of China Xi Jinping going against East Africa in a competition or a race against building the trust between India and China in the East Africa for building blocks of military and infrastructures? Suresh Prabhu, the Commerce and Industry Minister of India, led the Indian delegation at St. Petersburg International Economic Forum on May 25th and 24th to initiate an economic summit as follow-up of the visit of Prime Minister Narendra Modi of India to Sochi for an informal summit with Russian President Vladimir Putin. The two countries also explored the possibility of joint ventures which should participate in tender in third countries. The minister during his engagement invited the various ministers, governors and CEOs to bring their delegation of top 100 CEOs to visit India for summit and the meeting, with government officials and Indian CEOs where sector-specific industry would meet each other to discuss, build contacts to create sustained engagements. As India and Russia are getting so much closer and getting into economic trades and bilateral ties, US is getting eager and Trump is a little bit afraid or shocked to see India and Russia getting closer than US in relationship on defense and economy. The minister met 5 Russian ministers and several top business leaders representing railways, communication and media, fertilizers and startups. During the various meetings, the both sides appreciated and noted the fact that India-Russia trade has increased considerably, but was also still less the potential. The thrust of the conversation was creating and executing a plan for increased India-Russian trade economic cooperation. Towards this end, logistics, the infrastructures, the knowledge and based economics, diamonds and golds were highlighted as the important focus areas. In the infrastructure sector, the status of joint study with Russian railways on the high-speed railway line between Nagpur and Secunderabad was discussed. The Indian minister also highlighted the need to set up joint ventures which should participate in tender in third countries. The knowledge-based sectors like paramedicals, innovative industries, digital economies were discussed as the target areas of joint cooperations, with Russian Deputy Prime Minister and Indian ministers highlighting the need for the cooperation and creating a win-win plan in the areas of gold, diamond, timber, and other natural resources. The visit also discussed the creation of mechanisms to find the complementaries and remove barriers between the economies of the two countries. The Commerce and the Industry Minister of India and the Minister of Economic Development discussed the articulations of the Joint Action Plan on increased Russian economic cooperation and to submit the findings of report before the annual summit between the Prime Minister of India and the Russian President later this year. The establishment of a strategic economic dialogue between the Niti Aayog on the Indian side and the Ministry of Economic Development on the Russian side, where experts from both sides would meet and discuss the economic issues, which would have its first meeting later this year, was discussed. Expediting the EIUE, the India FTA negotiations was also underlined. The Indian Commerce and the Industry Minister and the Russian Minister of Transport agreed that the operations, the International North-South Transport Corridor, would propel trade between the two countries to new height by providing a faster, more viable trade route. Therefore, should be a priority for the both. So what do you think of India and Russia's close economic ties and mega economic summit, which will trigger US ties with India to unwilled relations or reliable relations? Post your comments below, and if you like this video, please give a thumbs up and follow us on social networks and subscribe to our channel. And thanks for watching. This is WC Daily. Think big, think different. Bye.